No matter what, and no matter how many times I've got taken away from my family, months going into jail, in and out, in and out, I still could not stop getting high. You know, I grew up around my dad and his friends, so his friends were my best friends, and I remember I used to see kids playing in the dirt, and I'd be like, "What are they doing, Dad?" You know, like they're weird. You know, so I never really grew up with a normal childhood. I didn't really like what kids my age were doing. I wanted to be with the adults. I wanted to be in the business. I wanted to know what was going on. Both my parents are addicts, alcoholics, and when I was like maybe 3 or something like that, my dad got sent to prison. And my mom was taking care of me, and she was in bad relationships her whole life pretty much. And she gave me to my grandparents, which is my dad's parents. So I always hopped around everywhere. I never had one particular place I could call home. I was always hopped around everywhere. When my dad would go to work, he'd drop me off at my cousin's house. Like I was just always all over the place as a kid. You know, I like to touch a little bit about, you know, being sexually abused when I was little, because it's things people don't like to hear about, things people don't like to talk about, but it happens and it affects you in ways that you don't even realize as an adult. You don't even realize as a teenager, you know, and I'm a suppressor. I suppress bad things that happened to me. And so it happened when I was around 6. So I grew up, like I said, just different, you know, nothing happened to the person. It was, unfortunately, it was a relative, you know, so it was kind of like one of those things in the family where everybody's like, you know, don't talk about this, don't talk about that, you know. Nothing really happened, nothing really came of it, so I was just really like scared kind of, you know, grew up like that. My grandparents, they took really good care of me though. I love them so much. They were my rock, you know. They're such good people, loving. They always open their homes to people, you know. The neighborhood, we're all really close. I come from Superior, it's a really small town, so we're all really close. We all know about everybody, you know, so everybody's in each other's business. Normally people, you know, say that, oh, I started drinking first and then I went to weed or something like that. But for me, it was different. It was different. Like I totally jumped into meth right away. Like that was my drug of choice. It was just straight meth. Started at 14 years old. And I remember I was with one of my cousins and we were just out running the streets, you know, just out being kids. And she was like, hey, come on, let's go over here. And we went to this place and they were hitting a meth pipe and they were like, here, like try this. And I remember taking my first hit and thinking, this is what the rest of my life is going to be. And from there, it just went on, and I was only 14. You know, I see kids now that are 14 and I'm thinking, what the hell was I thinking? I can't believe that was me. And it was, unfortunately. My dad and I bumped heads a lot because, of course, I wanted to do what I wanted to do. I got in trouble with the law at a very young age. And I pretty much spent from the age of 14 to 18 in and out of juvenile on the run. They would let me out on probation and I would go on the run. Like I wouldn't stay home. I would just take off, you know, because I didn't want to be with my dad. I didn't want to be with my grandparents. You know, I have people that love me and my family and that wanted me to be around and wanted me to be a part of their life growing up, but I didn't want it. And it's sad because that's pretty much, I missed out on so much growing up, you know? And I remember being 17. I had violated probation 13 times before they finally committed me to the Department of Juvenile Corrections, and they didn't let me out till I turned 18. And I thought, finally, this is my break. I'm finally 18, you know, and I actually stayed out of trouble for about 5 years. When I was 23, I did get my first DUI, and I got like 6 felony charges. I had a kid with me that was under the age of 16. She wasn't in a seatbelt or in a car seat, so I ended up getting 6 felony charges. They found a bunch of stuff in my purse, and that really just changed my life. From then on, as an adult, I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do. I was put on probation again, you know, and I had known this for all my teenage years. I knew what probation was like. I knew what it was like to be on the run. I knew what it was like to be involved with the cops all the time. Cops knew me by first name. They knew where I lived. I can't tell you how many times they would come and pull me out of houses, like put your hands above your head. So I was put back on probation, but I had never stopped using, and at any point in time, I never stopped using. And of course, me being on probation, it doesn't work. I run. I get out, I run, I take off. I don't do well on probation. I was still with my grandparents for a majority of the time until I met my husband. I was 23 when I met my husband, so we were living together in an apartment. And I remember the cops came and knocked on the door, Chantel, please step out, and they arrested me. You know, like, it's ridiculous. And my grandparents, they were old when they had me, you know. I didn't care, you know. One of the things I regret is not thinking that, you know, because like I said, my dad and I had a really rough relationship. My mom was kind of in and out of my life my whole life, but she was always there, like to talk to me whenever I needed her. We were really close. My mom and I were really good friends. You know, it wasn't really a parent-daughter relationship. She loved me to death and I loved her to death. So when I was on probation, it happened in 2011, I got on probation. And like I said, I continued using, you know. I learned how to trick drug tests to where I wasn't getting in too much trouble. Like I couldn't stop getting high, like how stupid, like my freedom was on the line and I couldn't put the pipe down, you know? I had started selling this stuff when I was about 14 and in big quantities. Before I ended up getting clean, I mean, I was moving like pounds of it, you know? In 2017, so I, like I said, probation, in and out, in and out, in and out. I couldn't do it. Finally, and I kept switching my probation officers. Finally, I get a probation officer, and I was just honest with her. You know, I was like, listen, this is where my life is at. Like, I'm not doing well. I need help. I'm looking for help. And I asked her, like, do you have tasks? Do you have, can I come stop at your office a couple times a week? Like, trying to hold myself accountable. And she was like, no, we don't offer that. We don't offer that. We don't offer that. So it was kind of like, well, all right, well, I'm just going to keep doing what I got to do, you know? Not what I got to do, but what I do. Like, doing it for so long. I'm 29. I've been doing that stuff for 16 years. So in 2015, we did get married. He knew what I was doing, and towards the end, he did dabble in it a little bit, but nothing to the extent of what I was doing, you know. I was on intense probation when we got married. I had to get permission to go to my own wedding for my probation officer. And again, I was high, you know, I didn't care. Probation officer came over one day and she was like, what are you doing? I was getting high. My grandparents, I could do no wrong to them. They loved me so much and I could absolutely not do any wrong. And so I started shooting up when I was like 21 maybe. And my grandparents found the stuff and they never said a word to me about it. They never judged me. They just wanted me to get help. They wanted me to be better. They just didn't know about any of this. You know, like I said, they were older. So we got married in 2015, and like I said, probation, in and out, in and out. I ended up going to prison at the end of 2016. I had tried getting sober one time, and this whole time in 2015, right after I got married, and I went for 3 months. I was able to stay sober for maybe 6 months, you know, clean off dope. And I didn't have a system. I didn't go to meetings. I didn't have really a support system at home. I thought that I was doomed because I went back to Superior, but I had nothing else, you know. And I actually went to nursing school, finished that, and I was a CNA for a while. But that all came to an end when I picked up again. It was just like second nature. It's crazy. It's like I didn't even have to try to go back to it. It was just there. So when I got out of prison, I was only there for 6 months. When I got out of prison, my grandparents were both really sick. So when I got out, I made it my goal to take care of them. My grandfather was in some nursing home. He had got sick, and my grandmother was at home pretty much bedridden. And like I said, they were my life. They raised me, you know. Back up a little bit, when I was in prison, you know, I remember this day like it was yesterday. The guards were yelling my name, you know, Tejas, and then they came to my bunk and they were like, hey, we need to go to the chaplain's office. And I was like, one of my grandparents passed away. Like, the biggest fear of when you get sent away from your family is losing somebody close to you. And never in a million years would I have ever thought it was who I thought it was, who it ended up being. So I get into chaplain's office and he tells me that my mom is gone. They said she committed suicide, but I don't believe it, you know. And it was hard for me because I was in prison. I still had a month to go before I got out. And she was the first one to write me when I got there. Like, she kept in constant contact. I had just wrote her back and I was waiting for a reply and I never heard from her again. That was definitely hard for me. And then when I got out, like I said, both my grandparents were really sick. I kind of suppressed my mom's death in a way to where when I got out, I kind of, you know, I'm a caregiver. That's what I do. I've always done. I've always been with my grandparents. I've always helped them and take care of them. And when I went to school to be a nurse, I kind of knew a lot of stuff already because I had taken care of them, helped take care of them for so long. So when I had got out, like I said, I ended up moving in with my grandparents. I got them out of a nursing home, out of a bad situation, and I brought them home. I was medical power of attorney, and even though I went right back to using still, but I was able to 24/7 around the clock take care of them. It's crazy because I told her, I said, Masita, that's what I called her. I said, Masita, it's okay to go. Like, it's okay, like, don't worry. You know, a few minutes went by and I was just trying to comfort her and nothing happened. And then I said, Masita, I said, don't worry about me. I said, I'm gonna be okay. I said, because after this journey's over, I'm gonna give my life over to the Lord because he's gonna be the only thing to save my life. It was hard, you know, and I still did that in my addiction. And I'll never forget my grandfather before he passed away. He said, you know, he said, when you promised me that you were gonna take care of us and make us happy until we passed away, he's like, you kept your promise. And I kind of lost my mind after my grandparents passed away. My mom, my grandparents, my husband, and I were going through a really hard time. And I honestly, like, people also don't like to touch on, you know, dual diagnosis or having lost people actually who have mental stuff going on. And I lost my mind. Like, I was seeing stuff that I've never seen before. Like, sometimes I feel like I would, like, drift away from myself, and I would literally see, like, something leave my body, and, like, this evil type look on my face would, like, get a chain and, like, this hook and, like, throw it at that thing, whatever it was, and reel it back in. Like, it was like I was trying to leave myself in a weird, freaky, crazy way. And that kind of stuff will scare you, but it didn't scare me enough to stop using, you know? The people who I was mostly around, you know, my other cousins, my uncles, they stopped talking to me, you know? They just disowned me. They were upset at the fact that, you know, mine and my grandparents' relationship, it was just that tight, you know? Like, they raised me, like, they had their parents who raised them. Like, my grandparents were my parents that raised me. Like, when you're mad at that, like, I would have been happy. But that's just the difference between me and them. I was in the shower a lot. I was pissed off a lot. I remember taking like 10 melatonin just to try to get some sleep. It was the most awful experience I've ever went through in my life. And I was just coming off of meth, you know? And so when I went to go check in with my probation officer, I'm skipping, you know, thinking everything's gonna be all good. And she's like, oh, Chantal, I'll take you first. She snatches me, pulls me in, throws handcuffs on me. She's like, you need more protection than I can give you. I get it, dude, I get it. Like, I was such a fuck up, you know? Like, I was the worst probationer ever. And so I'm in handcuffs and I'm telling her, wait, but I'm clean, like, wait, hold on. I wouldn't even drop a dirty UA. I would just tell her, listen, I know you're gonna try to, like, she'd be like, come on, let's go do UA. I'm not doing no damn UA. Like, here, let me sign that paper, like, I'm dirty, you know? When or about this day, I used meth, yeah. Well, I just got hyped before I came, you know what I'm saying? And in those 3 weeks, like I said, I knew that something had to change. When I was in the shower all the time, I would start singing and being my same silly self, you know, that I had lost in the midst of all of this, you know. The fog started clearing up and I started feeling a little bit better, you know. I started talking to God out loud, you know. So anyways, they threw me in handcuffs and they threw me in the back of a cop car. And mind you, I'm 3 weeks sober at this point, right? 3 weeks sober at this point, and we're on our way to Florence jail. And I'm thinking in my head, like, going over and over and over, I'm like, this is not how this is gonna end. Like, I gotta do something to stop this from happening. Like, there's no way. So I faked a seizure, you know? I'm in the back of the cop car, you know, I'm shaking, and I, you know, fake a seizure, you know? Like, they pull over, call the ambulance comes, they transfer me to the hospital, and they're like, we don't know why you're faking it. Like, we'll be right there, like, to pick you up from the hospital when they discharge you. So there I am on the way to the hospital thinking, oh, what am I gonna do now? You know, like, there has to be, like, I have to get out of this. Like, I already stopped the road to jail already. Went to the hospital, which is back towards Mesa. And, you know, they're doing chest, doing x-rays and stuff like that, you know, EKGs and stuff. And I was sitting there and I was handcuffed to the bed at this point, you know. I was handcuffed to the bed in the hospital and I was just sitting there and I just surrendered. You know, I looked up in the sky, and this is the first time me ever reaching out to my grandparents or my mom, you know, or even God, you know. I was like, you guys see what I'm trying to do. You guys know where my heart's at. You know what my life should be. You know what I'm gonna try to, you know what I'm trying to do here. Like, please, please, some magical way, let me walk out of here. Let me be able to have a chance to fight for myself. Because in jail, you can't fight for yourself. You don't get no phones to call whoever. You can't look for treatment. You're just stuck until your court date. And even then, when you're in your court date, they don't hear anything you're trying to say. They don't care, because my track record sucked, you know? I sucked on probation. There was no way they were gonna give me another chance. So, and then I was like, God, I was like, please, some magical way, let me walk out of here so I could fight for myself. And I kid you not, seconds later, here come the cops, took the handcuffs off me and left. There's no other explanation for that. No other explanation for that besides my higher power, you know. God, you know, it's amazing. He is so amazing. He does things for you does things for me all the time. And sometimes I don't get it. Sometimes I don't see it. But in this particular instance, there's no other explanation for that. Like, I literally reached out and I surrendered and I said, God, I said, it doesn't matter which way this goes. I said, it's in your hands. I said, whether I go to jail today or whether I walk out of this hospital and fight for myself and get into treatment, I said, it doesn't matter which way this goes. I said, I know that it's your will. And I know that I'm gonna be okay. And I'm paranoid looking because there's security in the hallways, you know. And so he walks me to the front and he's like, all right, you know, see you later. I hope you feel better. I walk out and I'm like looking in the parking lot for these cops, looking and looking. I don't see nobody. I take off walking. Somebody comes chasing me. Chantel, you forgot to sign something. And I'm like, yeah, right, here we go. And I was like, you know what, God? I was like, it's all right, because like I said, I know I'm gonna be okay. I turned around, legit, had to sign something, turned around and walked out. So I hitchhiked for the first time in my life. I stopped some dude on the road. I'm like, hey, can you please give me a ride? Because I have a friend that lives down the street. Please give me a ride, dropped me off. Like I said, I wish at this point, having what just happened, you think that my life would have changed, but it didn't. I went to my friend's house and I hit the pipe again. And it was the worst high of my life. Worst freaking high of my life. I mean, I was so paranoid. I thought the helicopter's coming for me. I thought the cops were coming for me. Like, I'm a freaking criminal. But I remember I called my probation officer and she didn't answer. Got a hold of my husband, had him come pick me up, and like I said, it was the worst high of my life. You know, I was hiding out in Phoenix at his cousin's house, you know, tripping out, telling him to go check outside because I thought the cops were there for me. That next morning I call her and she's like, you still have a warrant for your arrest. She's like, you do whatever you want to do. She's like, I would suggest that you turn yourself into the courts on Friday. So this happened on a Wednesday. So it was Friday, 2 days away. She's like, I suggest you turn yourself into the courthouse on Friday. Tell him your self-surrender, and then we'll go from there. I ended up getting into TLC. So it's a halfway house for women who just get out of prison. It's pretty grungy, it's dirty. You know, you have to wear shoes to take a shower. It's like just not the best comfortable place, you know, but I got in there, you know, so when Friday came around, I went to the court, self-surrendered. I had all my family with me, well, my friends actually, my friends were like my family. I had them with me, and my probation officer didn't recommend that I go to jail. I went to TLC, checked in, and I was there for a week before I got into the place that I wanted to get into. I was like convinced that I could do outpatient. There's no way an addict like me can do outpatient. There's no way, because what did I do when I got home? I got high. And I was Monday through Friday, an hour away from where I live, Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. Like, what was I doing all that for, you know? Like, I couldn't do it. I was at home getting high. And they gave me an ultimatum. They're like, listen, you need more help than we can give you. You know, because I was coming from home, I was given a drug test every day. They're like, you need more help. Like, you need to come into the house. You need to be inpatient. I was like, no, like, I'm not doing that. I got dogs at home. Like, I'm not doing that. Like, any little thing that I could come up with to stop me from going inpatient, I said. So I packed up all my stuff at home, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go inpatient. I went to my outpatient class that day, and at the end of the day, I was like, all right, I'm going home. Like, bye, you know? And I was on my way home. I called my husband. My husband's like, what are you doing? Turn around. Like, turn around. And that's exactly what I did. Illegal as hell. You know, I turned around in the middle of university, I think, and I go back to the treatment center, and when I walk in the front door, all the therapists were all standing up in the front room, and they also started clapping. Round of applause, right? Because I showed up. And I got clean. You know, I went inpatient, I did the damn thing, and I didn't just do it to get by. I did it because I knew that my life could be so different. You know, I was tired of being miserable. I was tired of wanting to be dead. I was tired of it. You know, my husband, he showed me a lot in the time that I was there. I was inpatient for 60 days. And then I was an outpatient for 3 months. And my husband showed me what he wanted in his life, and it was me. You know, he showed up for me. He was there for me. Him and my dad both were there for me. They played a big role in my recovery and my support system. But he's always checking up on me, like, are you all right? You know, are you okay? Like, he's always coming over, always bothering me, always making me go to his house. You know, that's my dad. That's who he is. He's really intense. Completing treatment, it was kind of easy for me because I knew what I wanted in life. I knew what I had to live up to. You know, I promised my grandmother that I was going to be okay, you know. And like I said, my mom's family, my grandparents, they're involved in my life. My uncles, my aunts, my cousins, you know, on my mom's side, they're so involved in my life. I actually found out that one of my aunts is 23 years sober. Had no idea. One of my other cousins is 6 years. We just celebrated her 6 years a couple weeks ago. Like, I had no idea, you know? And it's amazing to have people like that in my life that know what it's like and know what we've been through. I actually just got off probation, finally, a couple weeks ago, and it feels good. But one of the biggest things is, you know, when I wanted to die, I didn't know what I had in front of me. You know, my relationship with my family is amazing. Like I'm in constant contact with them all the time. I mean, yeah, I bug them probably, but I love them so much, and we're really tight. And I can't imagine what it would have been like had I have passed away. You know, I'm grateful to be alive. I love everybody in my life, and the main thing is just not give up on yourself. No matter how hard things get, no matter how many times you mess up, like don't give up on yourself. You know, there's an amazing life on the other side of using or drinking, you know. If you have a problem, don't be ashamed of it. You'd be surprised how many people out there have a problem. When I got into recovery, the first thing I wanted to do was work in recovery, and I was so blessed that now I get to do that. You know, I get to help people who are struggling. You know, I get to help them and be there for them in ways that people were there for me, you know. Another thing is, you know, just because you go to treatment doesn't mean that you can go back to the same life that you lived before. Everything has to change. You know, if I have any advice for anybody out there, it would be to find meetings, get a sponsor, be a sponsor, you know, helping other women. Stick with the women. If you're a woman, stick with the women. If you're a man, stick with the men, because they're gonna be there for you when you need them. You know, when you get a sponsor and you go through your steps, do it as thorough as you can. You know, and then when you take women through their steps, you know, be there for somebody like somebody was there for you. You know, it's so important because you realize a lot about yourself. You find out a lot about yourself doing your steps, a lot about yourself. In doing those steps, you realize, like, it may not seem like it, but helping people helps you, you know? And it's the most beautiful part of recovery, and definitely creating a great support system for you, because I have two friends where I live that I used to get high with back in the day. Two of them, one of them's coming up on 3 years, another one is almost at 3 years. I'm a little behind them, but still we have each other's back, and we're there for each other, and we do fun things with each other, and it's amazing. So it's very important to keep a really cool, you know, and it's fun. Recovery is fun, you know. Like I said, you do fun stuff. I went to my first concert not too long ago, you know, and I had a blast. And it was small, but it was cool because I've never been to a concert before, because, you know, when you're in your addiction, you miss out on so much time with your family, cool events. Like, there's so many events happening around, like, you know, cool stuff, and especially in October and the fall and Christmas, seeing the lights. My birthday's on Christmas Day. Like, I haven't seen lights in years, you know, because that's how sheltered I was. You know, now I get to do fun things with my family, you know. I'm going on a cruise next year, you know, 7-day Caribbean cruise. Like, that's where my life is at now, and I'm grateful, very grateful.
Detox to Rehab wants to help as many people as possible, and do it the right way. Please subscribe, comment, and like our channel. Thank you for watching.